guys, welcome back to Redemption Kids Online. This is our last and final episode of Tasty Bible Stories, and we are doing Joseph in the Coat of Many Colors. Most of you guys probably already know that story, so we're going to recap on it briefly. If you would like to read it yourself, you can turn to Genesis and read chapters 37 through 50, but we're going to do a short recap. I'm going to put this on the screen and you guys follow along with me, okay? So Joseph was the favorite of his 12 brothers, and that's one of the things that he's very known for. The one thing that made him different was he was his dad's favorite son. His dad, Jacob, did not keep the secret from the rest of the family. In fact, he even made Joseph a really special coat of many colors. And in today's time, that would be like your dad buying you the best iPhone and leaving the rest of your siblings with those flip phones that don't really work very well and don't do all that cool stuff that an iPhone does. Or think of it this way, what if your sibling was the one that got the super cool iPhone and you were stuck with the flip phone? That wouldn't be very cool, would it? So Joseph knew he was the favorite, and he was very bragatory about it. He really liked to brag, and he wasn't very humble, was he? He was really in his brother's faces about being the favorite. And so, in return, they were jealous of that. So after Joseph had a series of dreams and bragged to his brothers about the sun, moon, and the stars bowing to him, his brothers couldn't take it any longer. In fact, they were so jealous of Joseph that they plotted to murder him. So thankfully, one of the brothers talked them out of it, which was Reuben, and instead they ripped his coat off and threw it into a hole in the ground that was used as a well. So when they were coming back for him, they ran across some people heading to Egypt, and they decided instead of killing him, they were going to sell him, and they only sold him for 20 pieces of silver. Would any of you think about selling your brother for $20? Probably not, and I hope you wouldn't. So they sold him to these people as a slave, and instead they brought his coat that was smeared with some goat's blood that they had slaughtered, and they gave that to their dad, and they said, "We don't know what happened to Joseph. We're assuming an animal ate him, and he's probably dead." And so they thought their lives would be better because they killed Joseph. But in return, their father was devastated. So after learning of the death of Joseph, their father grieved, and he did not want comfort from any of his sons. So they didn't make anything better for themselves by getting rid of Joseph. Instead, they had to deal with their father's grief and probably a lot of guilt too. So as for Joseph, he ended up interpreting dreams in Egypt, and the king made him the governor of all of Egypt. So 22 years later, after Joseph's disappearance, his brothers went to Egypt during a drought to buy some grain. Joseph recognized his brothers, but his brothers did not recognize him, and he was so angry, he threw them in jail. So while the brothers were sitting in jail and they were worried, I think they were very repentive. So while the brothers were in jail, they began to blame themselves, saying it was because of what they had done to Joseph. They were going to have to give up their youngest brother Benjamin as ransom. But Reuben, the oldest brother and the same brother who prevented the others from killing Joseph, stood up in his place and offered himself instead. So this made Joseph overwhelmed with emotion. So he had pictured his brothers so evil and vile, that they had done something so horrible. But it softened his heart to see that they had decided to save Benjamin instead of just giving him up for ransom. So in the end, they all ended up making up, and eventually Joseph was able to go see his dad. Joseph saw the change of heart his brothers had, and it softened his anger towards them. How many of you guys understand that a change of heart can do a lot of good for people, can it? So what changed about Joseph's brothers? So what truly changed about them is there was a shift. They started off so bitter and hateful, and they wanted nothing more than to get rid of Joseph for good. But there was a shift in their lives. They went from wanting Joseph killed to humbling themselves and begging for forgiveness. Joseph's brothers were humbled by the thought of losing another brother, and their hearts were truly transformed. Sometimes that happens. God can change your bitter heart if you humble yourselves before him. How many of you guys have ever gone through a season in your life where you felt a little bit bitter Maybe something happened in your life that didn't go as planned and you didn't agree with it, so you were just angry and mad at the world. You maybe treated your siblings poorly, treated your parents poorly, but then there was a shift. God came into your life, he healed what was ever broken, and then you felt bad about what you had done, and you needed forgiveness. So, what do you think the story of Joseph and the coat of many colors really teaches us? So this story teaches us that being overwhelmed by bitter and jealousy can cause your heart to harden, which in return can lead you to do some very bad things. And those bad things that they did didn't just harm themselves, but Joseph, he really, he was a little cocky, but he didn't do anything wrong, and it wasn't his fault that he was his dad's favorite. Yes, it would probably hurt if you were in a family that had a favorite, but I would like to think most of us wouldn't have to go through that at all. But Joseph really had to go through a lot of trials. He ended up in jail. He was in jail for 2 years for a crime that he did not commit. And although God protected him and he came out on top, he still had to go through a lot of trials. He never was really able to be a part of his family again. So a lot of bad things came from being so bitter and hateful. You know what we also learned? That with God's help, and if you humble yourselves, you can be forgiven not only by God, but by the people that you hurt. And who knows how important it is to be a family and be with each other and love each other. I know I do. I know I wouldn't be in the place I am without support from family, and family is so important, and forgiveness is so important. So guys, maybe next time you're thinking about being a little bitter inside, or you're a little angry and hateful, just think about this story. Think about the outcome that can come from being that angry. I know most of us wouldn't be angry to the point where we think of killing somebody else, but maybe we would be angry to the point of saying things we didn't mean or doing things we didn't mean, and we don't want to get to that place, do we? We need God's forgiveness on the daily. I know I do. It softens our heart. So keep that in mind next time you're dealing with something Joseph maybe had to go through, or jealousy that his brothers had to go through. Think that you don't want to get to that place to where you could really hurt somebody. So keep God close, and you won't have to worry about what could possibly happen to your family or friends or hurting people. That's what's most important. So guys, we're going to move on to our tasty video. Stay tuned. It's going to be really awesome, and we're going to make some rainbow coat pasta. guys so much for watching our video. We are so looking forward to seeing you guys and fellowshipping with you again and learning together. So we can't wait to see you. Thank you guys so much for watching our video, and have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you on Sunday.